おれ皆さんお久しぶりですね。今宮崎県です。宮崎県ってご存知ですか？宮崎県は九州地方の日本の南西にある県です。今日はね、簡単な毎日使える日本語を紹介したいと思います。毎日使える日本語というのは日常用の日本語という意味です。よろしくお願いします。おれHello everyone. Welcome to my third video on this new channel of mine. My name is Dennis. I'm from Canada, the French-speaking part of Canada, as you can tell. And I live in Japan now. I'm a professional musician, and I decided to make this channel for those of you who are very serious about learning Japanese. You want to live in Japan or you want to spend some time in Japan. This is not for the casual learner. So automatically I lose quite a lot of viewers maybe, but if you're really serious about Japanese, then stick around. I would really appreciate it if you could subscribe, you can comment, share, or whatever. Anything helps because I would like this channel to grow and hopefully maybe have a second stream of income because life in Japan is not easy. So like I said, this channel is for people who are maybe living in Japan so that you can take advantage of the environment. And this way you can learn through immersion. I think that's a very popular concept and it's true. Immersion does work and it works best when you're in the actual natural environment. But fear not, today's video is for those of you who are not here yet. There's still certain things that you can do. And I've seen people learn to, speak pretty good Japanese despite not being in the environment. So maybe this is your first introductory lesson and it's going to be a little bit different from what you might encounter in classrooms. Because trust me, I've been to many classrooms for beginners. My whole concept is to get people to actually use the language, the practical Japanese, not to learn the academic stuff. Not to say that the academic stuff isn't good, you can learn that in parallel, but the practical stuff is what will make you grow the fastest. That said, if you're completely new to Japanese and you're not even living in Japan yet, it's going to be a little bit harder, but there's still certain things that I think are worth practicing. And that would be using vocabulary that you can naturally use every single day. You'll just have to put a little bit more effort into it. The art of learning has a lot to do with psychology. So I'm going to be talking a lot about concepts. And I suggest that you watch this video many times because it might not be possible to absorb everything in one shot. You may think you have learned something, but then you forgot it or you misunderstood what I said. So part of this psychology of learning is to review the lesson multiple times. It might take a few weeks, it might take a few months. It's not a race, but do make the effort to watch this video maybe once a month, once a week, once every 2 months, just to make sure you're learning things correctly. Sorry for all these disclaimers, but it's very important. I'm not here to replace a teacher. In fact, I suggest you find a teacher if you can, or people that you can practice with. The more resources you can take advantage, the better it is, in my opinion, especially good resources. And as you progress, you can start to trim things down and focus only on the things that really are relevant to you. So today, I thought maybe I'd do a video. The topic would be daily things you can say to develop vocabulary and grammar. Some of this might sound weird and even unnatural because you are just starting out. The point here is just to get you to say things on a daily basis. Things based on daily life. Waking up, brushing your teeth. So these are definitely very useful words. And when possible, I will let you know what's natural Japanese, something that a Japanese person might even say. For example, when you leave home, you might say ittekimasu, or before eating a meal, you might say itadakimasu. Things like that are very natural. What's not natural, for example, is waking up and saying okimashita, okita. It's kind of weird, right? You're narrating your own life, but it's actually something that I did and I kind of still do, just to review basic words, basic grammar, so that it comes out of your mouth naturally. Like I said, there's a strong emphasis on learning, the psychology of learning. I don't want to just teach you words. I want you to understand how the language actually works. As I've been explaining in my previous videos, which I recommend that you watch, I made 2 of them so far. The way the Japanese language works, it's highly contextual and it's all about the situation. In today's intro video, I used 2 expressions. I said, 毎日使える日本語 and I also said 日常用の日本語 both express the exact same thing. The first one is maybe, I guess, hard to say, but like a little bit softer, almost childlike, not really childlike, but there's nothing wrong with saying what I said. But the second one carries a little bit more weight. It's generally used maybe in more formal situations like a classroom or in a textbook, but it can also be used in casual speech as well. So there are so many ways to express the same thing depending on the context. And that's what I want to share with you. Understanding Japanese, as I've been saying in my previous videos, that's really the key to progressing. The Japanese mentality affects the language, or vice versa, almost like the chicken and egg concept. So there's this concept of honor, politeness, context, etc. So, for example, when you're speaking about someone else, you generally don't say things like, Tom wants to eat an apple. That's how you would say things in the English language. It's perfectly natural, right? But in Japanese, you might say something more along the lines of, it seems that Tom wants to eat an apple. You don't assume that he wants to eat an apple. Generally speaking, that's how the Japanese language works. Or maybe you might say, I heard that Tom wants to eat an apple. Or maybe Tom says he wants to eat an apple. In the Japanese language, when you're referring to someone else, you generally don't speak for them. You have to find a workaround. Or this other thing, another example that I'd like to give is when you ask a Japanese person about a fact that you know that they know, you ask them a question like, hey, what's a 2 plus 2? In the English language, you would just say 2 plus 2 equals 4, right? Something like that. But a Japanese person might say, I think 2 plus 2 might be 4. There's this humility component to it, just in case they make a mistake, They want to cover themselves. Again, these are just generalizations. Not everyone is necessarily going to follow this rule. I've definitely encountered situations where people were a little bit more direct. I'm just sharing with you what I've noticed multiple times based on personal observation. Maybe, for instance, in a classroom, a teacher might be more direct. If you ask them, teacher, what's 2 plus 2? 2 plus 2 equals 4. There we go. That's perfectly natural too. In this situation, the teacher has no need to be humble. He or she is supposed to know the answer. Basically, keep an open mind about all this. I don't want to be just teaching you vocabulary, but the actual mindset. Again, I don't know where you are in your Japanese studies, but maybe you know that there are multiple speech patterns, polite form and casual form, and actually many sub-variations. So I'm going to introduce you to some basic grammar as well. You will have the polite form and the casual form, and unfortunately, you will need to know both. And I can suggest maybe something where on Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, you try the casual form, and then Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays, you try formal, and on Sunday, you do whatever you feel like doing. However you want to organize things, you absolutely need to know how to use both and to use them in the appropriate situation and not mix them up. That's a problem that a lot of beginners make, and sometimes I make that mistake as well. If you live with someone who's also learning Japanese, you can maybe try daily routines. I'll give you some little examples later. You can be writing a journal. Add the Japanese keyboard to your computer, to your phone, whatever. Use Romaji, which is the Latin alphabet in the beginning. If you're feeling brave, eventually you can move on to the flick system that is widely used by the young generation. But actually, some people do use Romaji as well. So basically, as you're typing on your device, whether you use Romaji or the flick system, you type whatever you want to type, and then choices open up. You can choose hiragana, katakana, or kanji. In this video, I'll be giving you the kanji as well as the hiragana spelling, so you can use either. In this video, I'm not really going to explain the difference between kanji, hiragana, katakana. I'll make another video about that. You can also watch other videos from other YouTubers or find articles online. It's very well explained elsewhere. But still, as a beginner, typing on your device helps a lot. The written portion of the Japanese language is very important. It affects how people speak. And I'm ahead of you. You might be thinking, wait a minute, Dennis, what about children who don't learn to read or write until much later? When they're 6 years old or something. Now, here's the thing. I've had experience interacting with children, my friends' children. And when they speak, before they go to school versus how they learn to speak afterwards changes drastically. And as the children learn more about kanji, how the different spelling systems, their personality comes out as well. I'm sure all of you know arigato gozaimasu. Thank you very much. It can be spelled in hiragana or it can be spelled with kanji. And when you spell it with hiragana, it's very common. It's widely accepted. But when you use kanji to spell arigato gozaimasu, it gives greater weight to the thank you very much. And people will use that when they really want to show their appreciation, like it's very, very formal. It carries quite a lot of weight. You may have heard that katakana is used for loan words like English words or from other languages, but actually you can also use katakana on regular Japanese words to give more emphasis, almost like writing in capital letters, or things that are written in katakana. Sometimes people will write in hiragana just to make it more special, cuter, or something. Just it has the way you choose to spell something carries some kind of emotional meaning to it. It's crazy, but that's how it works. The point is, when you learn something in Japanese, don't think that it's consistently going to be like that all the time. There's a lot of rule bending in Japanese. Don't think of rules, think of tendencies. It's true that, for example, loan words tend to be written in katakana, but it's not always the case. When you learn a new word, when you learn new concepts, try to always remember this fact. Since this is a complete beginner video, we're not going to talk about whether to use kanji or hiragana. I'll offer them both. But just to give you an example, you have this word kawaii, and if you spell it in kanji, maybe it's a little bit, I wouldn't say formal, but it's a little bit, how do you say? You would say katai in Japanese. Katai means hard, stiff, but not necessarily so with that word. But some people choose to spell it in hiragana. It's a little bit softer. In fact, the word hiragana itself has kanji, but people usually spell it in hiragana. I know, it's crazy. Okay, so this is what I want you to do. I want you to add the Japanese keyboard to your device. And when I give you examples, I'm going to show you all the different spellings, the common ones anyway. And I'll teach you how to spell it if you use Romaji. So I want you to be actively typing things as well so that you can remember the spelling. And then you can just, even if you don't know how to read hiragana, kanji, or katakana yet, because I'm offering you the results on the screen, when you type it in Romaji, the results should come up and you choose the appropriate ones. And through recognition, you'll be learning the shapes of kanji and hiragana as well. So the day you actually start to learn hiragana, katakana, kanji seriously, the proper spelling, the proper stroke order, it should be a little bit easier. With that said, at the moment, reading and writing are not the priority. I'm just giving you this as something that you can easily do. Just install that keyboard. With the phrases and vocabulary that I'm going to teach you today, you write a diary every day. I woke up at 10 a.m. I went to bed at 10 a.m. I ate lunch. I brushed my teeth. Type it on your phone. Write a diary. Post it on something like Hello Talk. Hello Talk is basically an application for language learning where you connect with other people. There are some pros and quite a lot of cons. I can talk about that another time. But basically, you can just start writing. Keep some sort of journal or of some sort. Since this is a complete beginner video, I don't want to overwhelm you with too much vocabulary because we can go crazy with this. Too many words and then you go crazy. Let's just start with the most basic ones. And if you like this content and you want more daily life words like this, I know I can eventually do follow-up videos so you can increase your vocabulary. My goal here is just to introduce you to basic words, basic grammar, basic time expression. Get you to read, write, and speak as well, even if it's at the most fundamental level. Basically, we're killing multiple birds with one stone. This is very, very efficient. But like I said, reading, writing are not the priority. Speaking and listening are. And I want to stress, as much as you can, try not to think in your native language. Japanese works in its own way, and trying to do literal translations might not always work. Furthermore, there are tons of ways to express the same thing. So again, this is just a starting point. Okay, let's get started, finally, right? Let's start with numbers and the expression of time. We can go in greater detail, but I want to make things very, very basic, and we're going to round things up. In fact, we're not going to use minutes at all. We're just going to keep things to 1 o'clock, 1:30, 2 o'clock, 2:30. So just round things up however you want. So here's how to express numbers when it comes to time. In Japan, the military system is used, especially in more business-like situations, but we also use the AM PM system as well. Just to make it simple, we're not going to use the military system, so we're not going to go above 12 o'clock, right? To express midnight is a little bit special. There are different ways to express it, but let's just use a simple one right now. Reiji. Now, very sorry to confuse you. I don't want to make things complicated, but I want you to be aware that there's this thing called pitch accent. It's the way you pronounce the words. And words can be pronounced differently based on what comes after. So basically, I'm from Canada, right? In Japanese, Canada is Canada. But if I say that I'm Canadian, I will add the word jin to it. Jin means person. So you put Canada and jin together, the pronunciation becomes Canada jin. So notice the difference. Just Canada itself. Canada. Canada jin. It's not Canada jin. It's Canada jin. And this exists almost everywhere in Japanese when you start to combine words. And the reason why I'm mentioning it here is that it's going to affect numbers as well. Whether you say, listen carefully, 12 o'clock and 12:30, 12時, 12時半. You notice the difference? 12時, 12時半. It's the G that changed. The first time it's 12時, G. Second time it's 12時半, G, 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 G. The pitch is changing. So when I just say 12 o'clock, 12時, the pitch goes down. But when I add han after, the pitch doesn't go down until the han. 12時, 12時半, 12時半. It goes down on complicated. Anyway, I just wanted to make you aware of this. Sorry guys, sorry. Like I said, I'm not a native speaker, obviously, but I'll try my best to be as correct as possible. If somehow I make little pitch accent mistakes, some of you pros who are watching this video, please forgive me. Come on, give me a break, because you guys make the same mistakes. I've heard it. In fact, even Japanese people make little mistakes here and there sometimes because they're not paying attention. They speak so fast and the inflection changes here and there. So don't prioritize this in the beginning, but I just want you to be aware of it. Okay, let's resume with the time expression. I want to keep things super simple. Okay, we're not going to go beyond 12, and we're not even going to express AM or PM. Let's just keep it super simple. So, 0時 for midnight, but for 12:30, you don't say 0時 and then half. You actually use the number 12. You would say 12時半, 12時半, 12時半. For 12 o'clock, like noon, then you just say 12時, 12時. 12:30, 12時半, 12時半. Han expresses half, so basically 30 minutes. 1 o'clock, 1時, 1時. 1:30, 1時半, 1時半. 2 o'clock, 2時, 2時. 2:30, 2時半, 2時半. 3 o'clock, 3時, 3時. 3:30, 3時半, 3時半. 4 o'clock, 4時, 4時. 4:30, 4時半, 4時半. 5 o'clock, 5時, 5時. 5:30, 5時半, 5時半. 6 o'clock. So 6, there's this sound with the R sound that you type on the keyboard. It's going to be R-O-K-U. So this R sound is a bit peculiar. As you might know, Japanese people have a lot of trouble pronouncing R and L in English. It's very, very difficult for them because it's actually the same thing. So Polaroid camera, they might say Polaroid camera, Polaroid camera, Polaroid camera. See, it's the same sound. R and L are the same. So we can make another video about pronunciation another time, but let's just move on. 6 o'clock, 6時, 6時半 for 6:30, 6時半. 7 o'clock, 7時, 7時, 7時半 for 7:30, 7時半. 8 o'clock, 8時, 8時, 8:30, 8時半, 8時半. 9 o'clock, 9時, 9時, 9:30, 9時半, 9時半. We're getting there. 10 o'clock, 10時, 10時. So with this 10, you have this 10. You basically, you don't say 10, but you make the first u sound, you make it longer. 10時. So let's say everything has a beat. If I remove the elongated u, it'd be 10時. But now it's 10時, 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 10時. But of course, when you speak fast, I mean 10時. So let me speak fast again. 10時. And let's remove the elongated u. 10時, 10時, 10時. You hear the difference? You make it longer just shortly when you speak fast. 10時. 10:30, 10時半, 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 10時半. 11 o'clock, 11時, 11時, 11時. 11:30, 11時半, 11時半, 11時半. And back to 12 or midnight. For 12, like noon, 12時, 12時. And midnight, 0時. Again, there are different ways to express certain things. We didn't even talk about AM and PM. I just want to keep it simple. So now you can express time in a basic way. So if you want to say, now it's 5 o'clock, you can say, 今5時です. 今 means now. This is a major simplification. You don't want to make literal translations, but let's just say that this means it is. It is 5 o'clock now. We haven't talked about the way the pronunciation works in Japanese, but notice that when Romaji you write D-E-S-U, so it seems like it's desu, but the way people pronounce it in day-to-day Japanese, you don't really say the u. You kind of, or you make it very, very, very short, as silent as possible. So this. So basic Japanese structure. The verb generally comes last. And then there's this thing that's called particles. There are many different kinds. Well, the particles, they indicate the focus, whether something is the subject or object. It's a lot more complex than that. This is a gross simplification, but I just want you to be aware of this. So for example, I can say, 僕はピザを食べます. 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 So in this sentence, は is a particle, and 僕 is basically the pronoun for I. It's used a lot by men. We can make a whole video about pronouns at some point as well. But 僕 so means I, and then は gives emphasis to me as the subject. And then pizza is pizza. ピザを食べます. So 食べます is eat. And ピザを, you add the o particle to indicate that the pizza is being eaten by you. And because Japanese is super contextual, sometimes they simplify things by removing words to make them as short as possible. So instead of saying 僕はピザを食べます, you can just say ピザを食べます. So now I've completely removed the I pronoun. I just say pizza, eat pizza. People will assume that you're talking about yourself. ピザを食べます. And then what's very, very common as well is to remove the o particle and just say pizza 食べます. It just rolls out faster. Pizza 食べます. Notice two things. In the spelling, when I type in romaji, also in the hiragana that comes out, the wa particle is spelled ha. There's a historical reason for this, but that's just how it works. Ha is actually wa in this context when it's used as a particle. In other contexts, ha is ha. And the o, you don't say wo. Well, do you? I'm not even 100% sure, but generally it's like, if you're going to use the W sound, it's very short. O, pizza o. So think of it more as an O sound. Pizza o tabemasu. You don't say pizza wo. Don't make the W exaggerate. Pizza o tabemasu. When to omit or when to add the particle, it's a little bit complicated. There's no simple rule that you can adhere to and it's going to work like a magical formula. But generally speaking, when speaking, whether even in polite form, it's possible to omit quite a lot of particles. In fact, when you go to the supermarket and they're asking you if you want a bag, they don't, well, in my experience, I almost never hear the particle. 袋ご利用ですか? 袋どうされますか? Again, yet another complex topic beyond the scope of this video. In this video, I just want to introduce you to concepts, make you aware that they exist. Now let's get to the fun part. Words, sentences, phrases that you can use every day. Wake up. So let's say I woke up. You can say 起きた. That's casual speech. 起きた. Formal speech. Well, not formal, but polite speech. 起きました. If you're talking to yourself, it's kind of weird. You should probably just say 起きた. There's no need to use polite form with yourself if you're narrating yourself. But then again, it's kind of weird to narrate yourself. So like I said, it's good to practice both just for the sake of practicing them, but just be aware of the context. So let's say you woke up at 8 o'clock. 8時に起きた. So, に is a particle to express that you add to the time to express the time. So basically, time plus に. 8時に起きた. 9時に起きた. 8時に起きた. 7時に起きた. 7時に起きた. 7 o'clock. So 起きた is the past tense form because you woke up. The same thing for 起きました. Past tense. Just in polite form. But again, if you're narrating to yourself, probably just want to use casual speech. 8時に起きた. It's still kind of weird to say that, but I woke up at 8 o'clock. But let's express future tense, which is what we call dictionary form, which is also another tense to express general statements. It's used for general statements or for the future, but now we're using it in the sense of future. So, 明日 is tomorrow, 明日. So just a side note on pronunciation, you see the spelling, it's 明日, but the E sound in し, you can kind of make it not too pronounced. You can just say 明日, 明日. So you see, you barely hear it. 明日8時に起きる. 明日8時に起きる. 明日8時に起きます. 明日8時に起きます. So maybe you're telling yourself you're going to wake up tomorrow at 8 o'clock. Let's continue with time expression again with another verb. Let's say eating. 食べる. 食べる is to eat. So you can say 12時食べる. 12時に食べる. 12時に食べる. 12時に食べた. So 食べる is the dictionary form. I will eat at 12 o'clock. 食べた is I ate at 5 o'clock. And now with polite form, 食べます. 食べました. 12時に食べます. 12時に食べました. So that was future tense and past tense. 食べます. 食べました. Just like 明日, 食べました, but 食べました. You don't make the E too prominent. Hopefully you're a fan of proper hygiene. So we're going to brush our teeth. I'm going to brush my teeth to express the future tense. We're going to use the dictionary form. 歯を磨く. 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 歯を磨きます. Polite form. 歯を磨きます. 歯を磨く. 歯を磨きます. And when you're done, 歯を磨いた. 歯を磨いた. That's casual form. And polite form, 歯を磨きました. 歯を磨きました. Again, the し, not 磨きました. It's 磨きました. 歯を磨きました. 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 And now I'm going to introduce you to another tense. It's I am brushing my teeth as you're actually doing it. Probably as you're brushing your teeth, you probably can't say it, but in between strokes, you can probably say it. I'm brushing my teeth. 歯を磨いている。歯を磨いている。歯を磨いている。歯を磨いている. So, ている, that's the form for saying that you're in the action, the process of doing something. However, I don't even know if I should introduce this to you, but like in casual speech, well, not casual, in speech, often we remove the E sound. So instead of ている, just say てる. And even in polite speech, people say that as well. So, 歯を磨いてる。歯を磨いてる。歯を磨いてる. Same thing with polite form. So, the full, proper grammatical form, 歯を磨いています。歯を磨いています. But without the E sound, instead of ています becomes てます. 歯を磨いてます。歯を磨いてます. Very, very useful. Present continuous form, I guess that's the grammatical name. So another useful phrase, vocabulary, to take a shower. シャワーを浴びる。シャワーを浴びます。シャワーを浴びている。シャワーを浴びている。シャワーを浴びてる。シャワーを浴びています。シャワーを浴びてます。シャワーを浴びた。シャワーを浴びた。シャワーを浴びました。シャワーを浴びました. I took a shower. I'm taking a shower. It's all the same. So, I took a shower at 7:30. 7時半にシャワーを浴びた. 7時半にシャワーを浴びた. Alright. Let's make some coffee or some tea. コーヒーを入れる。お茶を入れる。コーヒーを入れる。お茶を入れる。コーヒーを入れる。お茶を入れる. So, 入れる is to brew. So you're making coffee, you're brewing coffee. Let's say you're in the process of doing it. コーヒーを入れている。コーヒーを入れている。お茶を入れている. And again, in the ている form, you can remove the E, the sound. So you can say コーヒーを入れてる。入れてる. And if you're a good boy or a good girl, you're typing this on your phone, you're typing the romaji, and you see the text that appears. Since coffee is a regular word, it's probably going to show you the option of coffee spelled as katakana. So that's a loan word, kohi. So you type K-O-H-I dash, kohi. Kohi. That dash makes the previous vowel longer. Kohi. Instead of kohi, 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 kohi. Not kohi, kohi. For B, kohi, kohi, kohi. Let's look at the mass form. コーヒーを入れます。お茶を入れます。コーヒーを入れます。お茶を入れます. Present continuous form. I guess that ています、ている form, but in polite speech. コーヒーを入れています。or 入れてます。入れています。入れてます. And now, past tense. コーヒーを入れた。コーヒーを入れた. That's casual speech. And past tense with polite form. コーヒーを入れました。コーヒーを入れました. Let's make it a little bit more complicated. You don't have to know this, but you can say, I was brewing coffee. So it's you were in the process of doing something, but it's in the past tense. コーヒーを入れていました。コーヒーを入れていた. So you see there's a pattern there, right? Again, you don't have to worry about this. I just want to introduce you to this, but there's a pattern to all this. Now let's drink that coffee. So, コーヒーを飲む. To drink. I drink the coffee. Well, actually, I will drink the coffee, I guess. You can also use it as a general statement, but we're not going to talk about that today. Just say, コーヒーを飲む. I will drink the coffee. Polite form, コーヒーを飲みます。コーヒーを飲みます。Past tense, コーヒーを飲んだ。コーヒーを飲んだ。コーヒーを飲んだ。Past tense, polite form, コーヒーを飲みました。コーヒーを飲みました。And you're in the process of drinking it. コーヒーを飲んでいる。コーヒーを飲んでいる。So that's the full grammatically correct sentence, but without the e in でいる。コーヒーを飲んでる。コーヒーを飲んでる。Polite, コーヒーを飲んでいます。コーヒーを飲んでいます。But without the e, コーヒーを飲んでます。コーヒーを飲んでます。You can replace coffee or tea with water, お水. Actually, there are different ways to say water, but let's just stick with what we have for now. Keep it simple, right? お水を飲んでいる。お水を飲んでいる. I'm drinking water. Here's maybe some more useful words for you to use with 食べる. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. There are many ways to express these concepts, but let's just stick to these simple ones. 朝ごはん、昼ごはん、晩ごはん. So, 今日 means today. 今日8時に朝ごはんを食べました. Or 食べた. So feel free to mix these words up. So here are some very useful Japanese that everyone uses. Before you eat a meal, you can say いただきます. It's basically the Japanese equivalent of bon appetit, but it actually doesn't mean bon appetit. Actually, it means I receive, and it's used in humble speech. It's keigo. We haven't talked about this yet in this video, but it's a standard expression before you eat something. So before you eat a meal, you just say いただきます. And when you're done eating, ごちそうさまでした. 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 Again, this is like a humble speech, but we're not going to explain the grammar. Just accept it as something that is said before and after meal. So before you eat the meal, いただきます。いただきます。ごちそうさまでした. Let's revisit 食べる. So we saw the polite form and the casual form. 食べる、食べます. We also saw the past tense. 食べた、食べました. But the present continuous while we're eating. 食べている。今食べている。今食べている。今食べてる. Remember, 今 now. Or polite form, 食べています。食べています。今食べています。今食べてます。食べてます。食べてる. So now some more useful phrases that are actually used by Japanese people in day-to-day life. When you leave home and to go to work, go to school, you can say 行ってきます. It literally means I'm going and I'm coming back. 行ってきます. And if someone is at home, they can say 行ってらっしゃい. It actually basically means the same thing, but it's in kind of humble form. You will go and you will come back. So you say 行ってきます. That's kind of like polite form. And they say 行ってらっしゃい. The same thing, but humble form. Or rather, respect form. But that's not important. Just accept it as a set phrase. So you're getting ready to leave, to go to work or school. You tell your parents, 行ってきます. And your parents will say, 行ってらっしゃい. And then when you come back home, you can basically say, ただいま. And they'll say, おかえり. So, ただいま basically means this moment, this instant. I've come home this instant. And おかえり is kind of like a respectful form of coming back home. So when you come home, say ただいま, and your parents will say おかえり. Another useful one, let's say you're in the kitchen, you're eating dinner or whatever, then you want to go to the toilet. You'll say トイレに行ってきます. トイレに行ってきます. Or you can use casual speech. If you're at home with your family, probably should just use casual speech. トイレに行ってくる. トイレに行ってくる. And to make it a little bit more natural, you can add this little thing that says ちょっとトイレに行ってくる. ちょっと Chotto means a little bit. Very, very useful. Toilet. Amazing. Let's say you want to charge your phone. Very useful. 充電します。充電します。Or that was polite speech. します is to do. Again, to express doing something, there are many ways to express this in Japanese. This is one of them. It's all way when you choose one or the other, it depends on the situation, on the what came before. So this is a pattern. 充電します. The dictionary form, 充電する. So I will charge my phone. 充電 is actually to charge. You don't have to say phone. 充電します。充電する。充電している。充電してる。充電しています。充電してます。充電した。充電しました。So I gave you present continuous, I gave you past tense. I charged my phone, I'm charging my phone. Polite, casual. See, there's a pattern here. We can do a deep dive into verbs at one point, but I think the whole point of this is that you should be using these every day. Take what you can. I'm not going to show you too many. In fact, there's probably enough. But you can already get started this way. You don't always have to understand the exact grammar yet. Just say them. When you're about to charge your phone, you can just say 充電する. And while you're charging it, 充電してる. For a first time and complete beginner video, this is probably enough vocabulary. There's already quite a lot there. And like I said, a lot of these things are not yet supernatural in the way you would express yourself, but it's perfectly normal if you're new to it. Just start with this, and maybe in another video we can start to make things a little bit more natural. By natural, I mean the way Japanese people would actually express themselves. What I showed you is all correct, but it could be smoother. You can sound more like a human being, like a regular Japanese person, than a robot. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, if you're lucky to have someone that you live with who's learning Japanese with you, there are a few things you could do. Few patterns you could use. For example, you can ask them what time they woke up. Let's keep it simple here. Let's just use dictionary form, okay? 何時に起きた? 何時に起きた? Nan is what, ji is the time. 何時に起きた? And I told you how to answer that earlier, right? I didn't teach you this word, but to sleep, 寝る. 何時に寝た? And to make it sound more like a question, actually, you can change the intonation, the inflection. 何時に寝た? 何時に寝た? 3時に寝た. 3時に寝た. What time did you go to sleep? I went to sleep at 3 o'clock. Let's say you want to offer coffee to your partner or water, replace it with whatever you want, but like you say, コーヒー飲む? So you have this inflection, 飲む. You're using the dictionary form. We're using casual tense. コーヒー飲む? And your partner can say, あ、はい、お願いします. You can also just say, お願いします. お願いします means please in polite form. And then you can give it to them. You can say, どうぞ. Please, どうぞ. And they can reply, あ、どうも. It's a proper way to respond to どうぞ. You can also say ありがとう, of course. But let's say you don't need the coffee. You can just say, あ、大丈夫. 大丈夫. To be more polite, 大丈夫です. Notice when I'm adding these little interjections like, ah, that's quite natural, I think. But you don't have to use them, of course. So in these situations, I'm showing you kind of like typical natural speech patterns. 大丈夫 literally means big, healthy man. It's okay. It's all right. 大丈夫です. That's what it literally means. But in this case, it means it's okay. It's all right. And then you can do some greetings, with your partner. When you wake up, you can say, おはよう. That means, well, good morning. You can also say, おはようございます. That's more, I guess, polite. But, with your family, just say, おはよう is fine. おはよう. And before going to sleep, you want to say good night. Say, おやすみ. Or to be more polite, おやすみなさい. But again, choose one or the other. You can use them both. Like I said, you can do Monday, casual, Tuesday, alternate between casual and polite form. おはよう、おはようございます。おやすみ、おやすみなさい. My last advice is to get in the habit of writing a diary with the knowledge that you have, which you can already do. You just have to input the way I showed you to input on the Japanese keyboard. And of course, your vocabulary is extremely limited already, but with the limited vocabulary that you have right now, you can make quite a lot of variations. So you have to be creative. You have to train your mind this way to manipulate things. Start with the easy set phrase that you memorize over and over again so that it becomes part of your muscle memory. And as you start to get comfortable, start to change things up, like change the time. Instead of 7:30, say 8 o'clock. Instead of 8:30, say 12:30. Sometimes you can use today, kyo. You can say ima. You can add things like that. So for example, here's a sentence you can make. It's not natural because of the limited vocabulary, but here. 今日8時に起きました。歯を磨きました。シャワーを浴びました。9時半に朝ごはんを食べました。So basically this is how you could start in the beginning maybe. There's no one single right way to start. As long as you actually start, you do something. Watch a lot of videos, take lessons with other teachers. But I thought by doing things this way, you're killing multiple birds with one stone. You're learning some very basic vocabulary. You're starting to speak, you're writing, you're listening, and first you memorize some set phrases, patterns, and then you start to manipulate them, with the time expression and past tense, present tense, future tense, present continuous, etc. And the good thing is, even though a lot of these phrases that I taught you might not be perfectly natural or smooth yet, these are vocabularies and grammar points that are used in day-to-day life Japanese, and you can actually use them every single day. Hopefully you brush your teeth, hopefully you take a shower, hopefully you go to the toilet, hopefully you eat, etc. Good luck.